International Affairs commentator Douglas Herbert. Douglas, Fatah and Hamas, two Palestinian factions with a long history of bitter rivalry, and have tried and failed in the past to bridge their differences. So how did this latest deal actually come about?
Well, obviously in the context of a raging ongoing war in Gaza now in its 9.5 month. Look, this agreement for many of the Palestinians looking on is perhaps not even worth the ink that it's written with. They see this as a big diplomatic show. They've been watching this type of back and forth, these attempts at reconciliation is the word we keep hearing for the past 17 years, since 2007, where Hamas and Fatah, the two main factions and rivals, literally fought a civil war. And Fatah was basically, booted out of Gaza and had to hunker down in the West Bank, which today it only sort of partially governs, given the settlements and in that part of the territories. So when I say this is a big diplomatic show, it's not worth the paper it's written on. It does talk the talk. If you actually read the agreement, and it's an 8-point declaration, right? You said it's 14 factions, including these two main rivals. And it calls for a national unity government. It calls for all of them governing together, jointly governing these territories, Jerusalem, Gaza, West Bank, after the end of the ongoing conflict with Israel. Okay, so that's a big after also. It calls for all of the Palestinian institutions being sort of seamlessly melded together. It calls for no more deportations, no more Palestinians being displaced from their lands. It's a very, in words and sentiment, it's a very noble agreement. The problem, like I said, is making it work. One of the giant issues and one of the reasons it's failed in the past, last time in 2017, it broke down over disagreements over the fine print, notably weapons. Who's going to give up weapons? There's no provision in this agreement about that, about one authority that is going to control the weapons. Hamas has its own brigades, its own military wing. It's not about to cede its weapons to Fatah or anyone else in this new so-called national unity government. These are not just little fine points here. These are major stumbling blocks that are the reason you have had other deals founder in the past. So this is the latest in a string of reconciliation efforts. Most importantly, perhaps, it's a major diplomatic win. And I underscore the word diplomatic win for China. But in terms of immediate real impact, probably nothing, probably nil.
But what is new about this deal is the fact that it's China that has brokered this agreement, and Xi Jinping now playing an increasing role in global diplomacy.
Absolutely. A lot of this deal, and you're spot on, is like sort of aimed at a domestic audience. So Chinese can sort of look at their leader, their country, and say, wow, we really have stepped up to the plate. We are now major power brokers, major diplomatic players on the stage in the Mideast. Let's not forget, just over a year ago, March 2023, it was China that brokered what was an historic sort of mediation between Saudi Arabia and Iran, two of the Mideast's biggest arch nemeses, biggest rivals. That was hailed at the time. And ever since then, China's really been trying to up its footprint, not just in the Mideast, but in its appeal to what it and others call the global South. That is, these countries across the world, in the global South, in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, which are seen as sort of opposing this U.S. hegemonic post-World War II world order. They feel like they want an alternate vision of the way the world order could be. And in many cases, China's doing their bidding for them. And China's trying to appeal to that frustration, people who have real empathy, real sympathy for the Palestinian cause, because they see the Palestinians on occupied land sort of under the same sort of duress that they've been up against Western, as they see it, colonizers. So China has played it. It's very not tone deaf. It's just the opposite. Has played its cards very, very savvily. It's become more involved in the Mideast, more involved in the global South, and it's going to keep pushing these cards. And it has more financial ties, I'll also tell you. Artificial intelligence, high tech, both in the Mideast, but it's also cognizant of its ties to Israel. So it's playing a very savvy diplomatic game, if you will. And yes, no matter how you look at it, it's a big diplomatic win today for China.
Douglas Herbert, thank you for that.